Despite the progress that's been made in the past 100 years, men and women still enter a polarized workforce. Women are more likely to be found in domestic tasks such as housekeeping or watching children, whereas men are more likely to enter highly technical fields such as math and science-related fields. Now, whether or not you think this is a problem is a completely separate issue, but it is one example of gender stereotypes affecting our everyday lives. As it occurs, gender stereotypes are present in our everyday lives. We learn them as children, and they're reinforced as we grow. They affect us in unexpected ways, but they can be avoided or nullified if we so choose to take the steps in order to do so. Now, one way in which we learn these stereotypes and reinforce them, a study from Purdue's Extension in 2013 on the influence on children's gender development showed that children learn these stereotypes from their parents, their peers, and from the media. Specifically when it comes to Disney movies, we see that the princesses and the girls are oftentimes the helpless heroine that must be saved by the hero, generally a strong and silent prince. Now, we see that this stereotype occurs in real life, and it's been reinforced. In a study found in the Journal of Group Processes and Intergroup Relations published by McRae, Oshner, Mouse, Gabrielli, and Gross, entitled Gender Differences in Emotion Regulation, we see that there's actually a neural deficit that is formed in the male brain in response to negative emotions. As we see, when negative emotions or negative stimuli are directed towards males, they actually respond less than do females, showing that this strong and silent type stereotype has actually taken root in people today. Now, we know that these gender stereotypes exist, but why should we care? What does it affect? Well, it shows up in our everyday life in unexpected ways. In the Journal of Educational Leadership, Aronson found in 2004 that the threat of stereotype exists in schools. When comparing students with the same socioeconomic backgrounds, females tended to score lower on math tests than did males, just because of this gender stereotype. It's similar to the stereotype that exists with race in the performance in schools. Likewise, there are also negative effects for males regarding gender stereotypes. While not in the classroom, a 2007 study on male survivors published by AfterSilence.org found that male rape victims and sexual assault victims were less likely to report the incidents because they felt that if they did so, it made them less of a male because of that strong and silent stereotype and the fact they're supposed to be the hero and they're supposed to be the strong ones. They feel like less of a male if they say that something like this happened to them. So ultimately, gender stereotypes are affecting us in unexpected ways, male or female. Now, they exist, but they can be avoided and nullified. As we note from the Psychological Science Journal of 2005, Johns, Schmader, and Martins stated that knowing is half the battle. Now, when we look back to that study on female test performance, we see that if females were just told of the stereotype before they took a test, they actually performed better than their counterparts who weren't told about the stereotype before taking a test. Also, there are a few other things in which we can employ to everyday life in order to nullify these stereotypes. Professors of psychology Strosser and Good in ReducingStereotypeThreat.org stated that if we de-emphasize stereotypes, provide role models for all types of people regardless of gender, and encourage self-affirmation, will reduce the effect of these stereotypes. Ultimately, We learn these stereotypes in our childhood. We reinforce them in everyday life, and they show up in unexpected ways. We can avoid them and we can nullify them if we so choose to do so. But regardless of whether or not you think that it's a problem, they do exist in real life. And because we know them, we know that half of the battle is already won. 1, 2,